If you really appreciate it, then I want you to double my compensation for the next project. Hey old man, go tell the CEO of your company what I want. If you want to get famous using our company, you need to listen to that much. If you refuse, then we will no longer be accepting work from your company."
I found myself glaring at David unintentionally. While holding back my anger, I responded to him. Then, suddenly, David's face turned red. He stood up, grabbed a glass of ice water he had placed nearby, and dumped it over my head. The documents I had brought were also splashed, completely soaked. Still not satisfied, David yelled at me.
"How dare you talk back to me like that? If you wish, I can cut the contract right now. Our company is swamped with work from all directions, so losing you wouldn't hurt us at all. You should know that without even thinking. Cool your head and come back when you're capable."
He kept spewing insults, one after another, and I finally lost my patience. "You just lost $90 million. My name is George Irving, a 53-year-old man. Currently, I run the family business, Irving Real Estate, a small to mid-sized real estate company. Irving Real Estate is a company my father managed for years and is beloved by people of all ages in our local community. I've always loved my father's company since I was a child. Inspired by my father working in real estate, I aspired to one day run a real estate company myself. As a middle schooler, I began studying the field with dedication. After high school, I didn't go to college, but instead asked my father if I could work at Irving Real Estate. Initially opposed, my enthusiasm eventually won him over, and he agreed to let me join the company. Of course, I went through proper interviews and exams and earned my place. I gained experience in various departments while learning the job daily and acquired several certifications, including that of a real estate appraiser. My efforts were recognized, and with my father's endorsement, I steadily climbed the ranks. And I was appointed vice president a few years ago. Recently, with my father retiring due to age, I was named the second-generation president. I never thought I would take over the company I loved since childhood, and on the day I was offered the role, I felt the greatest joy of my life. When I shared the news with my wife and children, who I met at the same workplace, they rejoiced as if it were their own achievement, which motivated me even more. My father had watched over me since I was still green, and trusting in my growth, he handed over the company to me. Determined to live up to his expectations, I psyched myself up for the challenge. One day, I was headed to a meeting with a small construction company, Smith Construction Inc., which was our longtime collaborating firm since my father's tenure. Our company delegates construction projects we receive from clients to firms like Smith Construction Inc., which executes the building work. Once completed without issues, we pay the agreed-upon fee and deliver the buildings to our clients. While we work with several other contractors, Smith Construction Inc. is a preferred partner due to their prompt and meticulous service. After a recent large project from a client, I contacted them a few days ago. We planned to negotiate and sign the contract if there were no issues. I arrived at Smith Construction Inc. and was shown to the reception room. Arriving quite early, I headed to the restroom before meeting with the president. After checking my appearance in the mirror, I stepped into the hallway. Suddenly, a man burst from the side and bumped into me. "Ah, I'm sorry. Are you all right?" As I apologized, the man clicked his tongue and glared at me,
Watch where you're going. Don't jump out in front of me like that, old man.
Startled by his sudden outburst, I froze. Slowly recognizing his face, I realized he was David, the newly appointed second-generation president of Smith Construction, Inc., who had just taken over a few days ago after being the executive vice president. I had seen him once before, but had hardly spoken. This was practically our first meeting. Wondering what kind of person he was, I hadn't expected someone who would shout at strangers. I apologized again, and he stormed off down the hallway, seemingly headed for the meeting room. I followed at a distance. Then, bumping into another employee, he erupted again.
Watch where you're going, you bottom feeder. Everyone's bumping into me. I'm in a bad mood. Move aside when I'm walking.
After venting, David briskly walked away. Feeling uncomfortable yet concerned for the berated employee, I followed from a distance. Entering the previously mentioned reception room, David was already seated with other staff members. Noticing me, he glared sharply again.
Huh? Isn't that the old man from earlier? This isn't a place for lowlifes like you.
David gestured dismissively with the back of his hand, as if to shoo me away. I was dumbfounded, but since the employees around him only panicked and offered no help, I managed to regain my composure on my own and introduced myself. Nice to meet you. I'm George Irving. I represent Irving Real Estate, your counterpart for today's deal. Thank you for your valuable time today. As I reached to hand out my business card, David rejected it.
What? You're an employee from the other party? I don't need your card. It's just a nuisance. Just hearing your name is enough. You surely know my name, right? Let's get the deal started.
David, while leaning back, tapped his foot impatiently, signaling his irritation. He seemed to have mistaken me for just an employee, but it wasn't inconvenient for me, so I decided to not correct him and not worry about it. Reluctantly, I put the business card back and sat down at the prepared seat to start the deal. Just as I was about to begin discussing, it happened.
You're just a regular employee, right? Why would they send an old employee like you to have a discussion with me? You look unkempt and frankly, not very sharp. Actually, you bumped into me without thinking earlier, right? Does your company even care about doing business?
Out of nowhere, David began to insult me personally. I'm wondering what this guy is starting. To belittle your business partner outright doesn't seem very professional. I responded calmly, despite my irritation. Yes, we have received a significant project this time, and I was hoping your company would take it on. Are you dissatisfied with me as your business partner? While I dealt with this with a forced smile, the employees sitting next to David were sweating and seemed anxious. Though David had mistaken me for a regular employee, it was clear that the employees knew I was actually the president. However, it seems they are afraid of David, as they just sit silently without saying a word. Earlier, David was yelling at an employee in the hallway, so he must be taking out his frustrations on everyone around him regularly. Then, he crossed his arms and smirked.
Of course, I'm dissatisfied that you're the counterpart. You clearly didn't go to college, right? It's written all over your face. High school grad. And at your age, still not holding a position higher than regular staff. It must be the case.
David pointed at me gleefully, assuming he had guessed correctly. When he guessed that I only have a high school diploma, I instinctively touched my face to check if high school graduate was written on it. He misunderstood my gesture and began to laugh loudly, thinking he had guessed everything correctly. While he was right about the high school part, he was completely wrong about the job position. I thought about correcting him, but hesitated to announce myself as the president outright, and decided to ignore it. Then, David started commenting on my company.
Your company might be well known locally, but nationally it's insignificant, right? It's like it wouldn't matter if it existed or not. In contrast, our Smith Construction Inc. is fairly well known even in the city. You should be grateful that such a company would take your contracts.
He casually insulted my company, which made me clench my fists in anger. Remaining silent, David didn't care and soon made an unreasonable demand.
If you're grateful, I'd like the payment for the next projects to be doubled. Hey old man, go tell the president of your company my demands. If you want to become famous using our company, you'll have to listen to that much. If you refuse, then we won't accept any more work from you.
I unintentionally glared at David. Why is this person so arrogant? Causing trouble with a partner company would be problematic for David's company as well. If the balance of power between us shifts, it will inevitably result in losses for both parties. If he's just getting carried away because he was appointed as president, then how incompetent he must be. While suppressing my anger, I replied to him. Unfortunately, we cannot accommodate that request. We have been paying an appropriate amount until now. Furthermore, we are not contracting with your company to become famous. If you are not interested, we may seek cooperation from another enterprise. Suddenly, David's face turned red with anger, and he stood up, grabbed a glass of ice water from his desk, and threw it over my head. The cold was so shocking that I flinched and my shoulders shrank. Even the employees sitting next to David were shocked and quickly grabbed towels to wipe my head and suit. The documents I had brought were splashed and completely soaked. David was still not satisfied and started yelling at me.
How dare you talk back to me like that? Do you want me to terminate the contract right now? Our company has jobs coming in from every direction, so losing one won't hurt us at all. You should understand that without thinking. Incompetence like you should cool off and come back when you're ready.
He kept spewing insults nonstop, and finally, my patience ran out. You just lost a $90 million deal, I muttered, and the employees who were wiping the table and my suit suddenly turned pale. Confused, David asked, "What?" I then clearly explained to him. Because of your behavior and what you've said up to now, your company just lost a $90 million deal that was supposed to be finalized today.
What?
David looked stunned. In fact, the discussion I was supposed to have today was about a project far larger than anything we had contracted before. It involved the construction of a large-scale mixed-use commercial facility. A mixed-use commercial facility includes dining and entertainment venues, shopping centers, office buildings, and depending on the size, residential buildings might also be built. This particular project was a special request from a local government entity, and in terms of scale, it was about the size of several large dome facilities. Besides the mentioned facilities, the plan included educational institutions, elder care facilities, and even a large forest park. Due to the extraordinary scale, my father, who was then the president, and I reached out to various partnering companies, and we decided to co-construct with a contract value of $90 million per slot. We discussed with the partnering companies we approached and agreed that $90 million was a fitting reward for each. Everyone agreed immediately, so only one slot was left for other potential partners. I had initially thought of assigning it to Smith Construction Inc., but unfortunately, with David acting like this, I doubted they could handle it perfectly. Feeling it would be a waste of money, I decided to act as if this negotiation never happened.
A $90 million project? I wasn't informed about that.
David banged his fist on the table with a loud thump. Wasn't informed? Of course, because I hadn't spoken about it yet. David, when I tried to start the deal, you interrupted and started insulting me. Since then, you've continuously insulted me and my company without tiring. How could we possibly discuss the deal under such circumstances? Unable to say anything, David just groaned in frustration. But he quickly started to argue back.
You're saying you canceled the $90 million deal? Don't make me laugh. A regular employee like you couldn't possibly have that authority. It's your company's president who decides to cancel deals. Threatening me won't change that.
David stood proud, but the employees, who had been silently observing, finally spoke up.
David, this man is not a regular employee. He's the president.
He's Mr. George Irving, the second-generation president of Irving Real Estate. Didn't you hear the explanation from your secretary this morning?
The employees hesitantly tried to explain. David looked puzzled for a moment, recalling the morning's events, and then suddenly showed a look of panic. Apparently, David was briefed about the business partner by his secretary this morning. He has only been president for a few days, so he doesn't know much about the other party. Moreover, he said it was too much trouble and left without listening properly or paying attention to the details. All I could do was shake my head. Even when I tried to hand you my business card, you dismissed it as bothersome. If you had just taken it properly then, this misunderstanding would have been resolved immediately. I slowly took out my business card case and thrust my business card at David. It clearly stated that I was the president of Irving Real Estate.
Wait a minute. So you knew I was mistaken, you all. Why didn't you correct me sooner?
His face turning red with anger, David shouted, and the employees once again fell silent. Can't you see how your employees are acting around you? They are afraid of you. If someone gets yelled at every time they speak up, of course they'll stop wanting to talk. If you don't start handling things more calmly, soon you'll find yourself without anyone left around. As I spoke with a hint of preaching, David's anger only grew.
I'm telling you. You realized it too. You're the person involved, so you should have introduced yourself, even if it meant interrupting me. Were you staying silent on purpose to embarrass me?
He would have gotten angry just for interrupting him anyway. I sighed in exasperation, and just then, there was a knock on the door of the closed conference room. David answered grumpily, and into the room came a man in a wheelchair, pushed by his secretary. It was Kevin Smith, the president from Smith Construction Inc.
Sorry about that. Were you in the middle of a deal? I was supposed to arrive a bit earlier.
David and I were both taken aback.
Kevin, the president. What are you doing here today? Weren't you supposed to be in the hospital?
Actually, I got permission to go out today after discussing it with my doctor. My doctor is quite stubborn and it was hard to get permission.
As the two of them talked casually, I stood there, clueless about the whole situation. Kevin then explained the situation to me. Apparently, Kevin had been involved in a traffic accident a few weeks ago and had been receiving treatment in the hospital. The sudden incident caused chaos within the company. With no clear end to his treatment in sight and essential business unable to proceed in his absence, Kevin decided it was time to step down. The vice president was supposed to take over but refused, citing a lack of confidence. Desperate, the company turned to David, who had always boasted that he would become president someday. When the presidency was transferred, necessary explanations were supposedly given, but since Kevin needed to rest, he had arranged for his secretary and vice president to relay information. However, David had dismissed everything as troublesome at the company, which is why he was unaware of the details about the counterparties. And today, Kevin remembered that it was a scheduled deal with our company, which had been planned a month ago.
Wasn't it about the development of a mixed-use commercial facility? I was looking forward to it. So, how far has the discussion progressed?
Kevin picked up the documents I had prepared, noticing they were soaked. David started looking outside, avoiding eye contact.
These are wet. And looking closer, George, you're also wet. What happened?
Asked by Kevin, I glanced at David. He gestured frantically at me, signaling, "Don't talk." I ignored him and disclosed everything to Kevin. I explained how I had been verbally abused right from the start, how David had interrupted the deal to berate me, and how he had ultimately thrown ice water over my head. Kevin's calm demeanor suddenly turned furious.
David, what is the meaning of this? Is what he's saying true?
As David started to panic and make excuses.
No way that's true. I'm the president. Why would the top of the company do something so terrible?
It seems he's aware that what he did was wrong. If he knows it and still does it, that's really bad. While David frantically claimed his innocence, Kevin appeared thoughtful. This could lead to them thinking my statements were false. Just as I was about to plead further, the previously silent employees spoke up.
Everything George is saying is true.
We saw everything. The spilled water is proof.
It's not just George. All of us employees have been subjected to unreasonable treatment by David.
Encouraged by my accusations, the employees started to expose the past wrongdoings of David. It seems that since his time as executive vice president, David had been terribly mistreating the staff, often lashing out irrationally. Mistakes were met with immediate shouting, and any rebuttal to unreasonable events was met with relentless criticism. At the worst times, he would reprimand those taking breaks, yelling, "If you have time to rest, you should be working." Once he became president, his outbursts of verbal abuse increased, causing the staff to become terribly frightened. All of these actions were carried out where neither Kevin nor the vice president could see, and he carefully adjusted his behavior to ensure his bad reputation didn't reach them. Some were even sworn to secrecy, which shocked me. Caught with no way out, David was trembling and pale. Kevin was still silently contemplating. I took this moment to express my feelings clearly to Kevin. I had no idea your company was involved in such issues. I'm glad to learn this before finalizing any contracts. Due to the trust issues it presents, I would like to void this deal. Furthermore, we will refrain from any future transactions with your company. Kevin looked up from his contemplation and deeply apologized to me.
I apologize for the inconvenience caused by our David. In fact, I had heard rumors of his misconduct, but as they were few, I dismissed them as just rumors.
It appeared that Kevin had been slightly aware of the rumors. However, there hadn't been any consultations, and the rumors varied widely and lacked certainty, so he didn't take any specific action. He never imagined that his decision would later cause trouble for several employees and business partners. Enraged by the situation, Kevin said he had recently been informed of David's behavior by the vice president and his secretary, and was becoming increasingly concerned.
I knew David had a tendency to get carried away, but this incident really brought out his worst side. I take this matter very seriously and will discuss with the board to decide on a proper punishment.
As Kevin mentioned potential disciplinary action, David panicked and began making excuses.
What kind of punishment are we talking about? You're not going to fire me, are you? I just moved into an expensive apartment. Everything will be ruined.
Exasperated by his selfish remarks, Kevin exploded in anger.
Don't joke around. Your actions have cost us a valued client. Don't think getting fired is the only consequence. Be prepared.
Startled by the sudden outburst, David froze in fear. Perhaps now he could slightly understand how the employees felt under his verbal assaults. It seemed he was going to face proper disciplinary action, and it wasn't my place to comment further. I packed my belongings, said goodbye to Kevin and the staff, and quietly left the scene. Later, as promised, Kevin dismissed David from his position and then terminated his employment. After the contract with Irving Real Estate officially ended, the resulting damages were billed to David, burdening him with a substantial debt. Smith Construction Inc., the company's performance significantly declined and briefly went into the red, but it seems to be holding on. The vice president was appointed as the third-generation president, and Kevin, after being discharged from the hospital, has been actively helping to restore the company's performance. As for David, he moved from his recently acquired luxury apartment to a rundown apartment and started taking multiple part-time jobs to pay off his debts. It appears he is constantly bullied by younger leaders at work, but unable to quit due to his debts, he keeps working, often on the verge of tears. While it feels somewhat pitiable, it's merely the return of his own misdeeds, which seems still mild in comparison. On my side, after severing ties with Smith Construction Inc., I approached another partner for the mixed-use commercial facility projects. The deal was quickly agreed upon, and the contract was finalized. Construction is expected to start next year, and I am already looking forward to its completion. This ordeal has prompted me to review our partners and select only those truly reliable. Additionally, I've installed a suggestion box in the company, allowing employees to voice their complaints and requests directly to me, the president. Thanks to this, I can hear employee opinions firsthand, which helps in addressing issues more effectively. Ironically, this improvement might be credited to David. Moving forward, I am committed to ensuring Irving Real Estate continues to be widely loved by the community and our employees. And someday, I hope to grow the company further before my child takes over. Today, I psyched myself up and energetically opened the front door of my house.